The smartest guys around are about to break it down like they've won the game a million times.
Well, actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all.
To talk about, baby.
Things happened.
We are so back here with the great Stephen Fishbach. Stephen, how are you?
I'm great. Hyped off an episode that, like, I truly believed the whole episode it was not going to come together. And I was wrong. I believed it was not going to happen.
Yeah, we have so much to talk about here today because I think that this was a really interesting final six and a lot to break down from different perspectives. I think I have some very interesting takes on all of this, and so we'll get to all of that. But first, it's a momentous day for one of the Survivor know-it-alls. And for once, it's not me.
Whoa. Yes, it's a huge day for me, Rob. Huge day.
Be the first to congratulate you on RHAP on Stephen Fishbach's long-awaited novel is now available for pre-sale.
It's truly like, it's insane. I've been working on this book for 10 years. And so now that like people can buy it is just mind-blowing to me. I have poured my soul into this book. So let me make the pitch or let me tell you about it. How about instead of making the pitch, I just tell you about it. So the book is called Escape with an exclamation point. And I was really prepared to fight for the exclamation point because it communicates excitement. But
just let you have it.
Yeah. They were like, yeah, that's fine. So I didn't have to fight. There's no story there. So it's about something I know very well. A has-been reality TV contestant who goes back who goes on to a news show. If you read my short story, wow, I'm like flustered, like talking about this.
Here, let me let you catch your breath here because this is such an exciting day because I have worked so closely with Stephen over all these years, and I know how much work he has put into making this novel become a reality. Even in the last year, all the edits and the revisions that Stephen has had to do. It's an incredible achievement to get to this point, and I'm so thrilled for you that finally people are going to have the opportunity to read. Could you imagine what Stephen Fishbach have been working on for 10 years? This is like the Manhattan Project.
Well, that's sort of like, I'm like, gosh, what could I have done in 10 years?
Yes.
Thank you, Rob. That really means a lot. I was getting a little misty-eyed.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible accomplishment, and I'm so happy that I know how long that it took for this to all happen, and to have this be the day that people are able to finally put in that order. That's very exciting.
All right, so let me try again. All right, Escape exclamation point is about a has-been reality contestant who gets a shot to like reclaim his former glory on a new show set in a tropical jungle. But while there, you've got, all of the other scheming contestants, but you also have the producers. So the other like major character is a producer who herself has had this huge scandal because of a tragedy that happened on a show that she worked on. And so she is trying to redeem herself on this show by kind of pushing her imagined story arc. So the two face off, everybody has an agenda. There is like the chaos of all the different contestants. There's the office politics of the different producers. And of course, there's the very real dangers of the jungle. Now, if you think me writing about a jungle reality show sounds a little on the nose, it is a work of imagination. It's a totally new show that I imagined. I interviewed literally hundreds of people, past contestants from dozens of different reality shows. I've interviewed producers, I've interviewed camera people, audio people, just to make sure that this really captured, the full experience of like what it's like to be on a reality show and what it's like to make a reality show. I mean, the thing that it does take from my personal experience is like the feeling of what it's like to be on a reality show, like the stuff that I feel like has never really been represented in a novel. So many books about reality shows are like, it's like the vapid fame whores who just want their shot at celebrity. But the people I know are like people who go into these experiences like really seeking something, like looking for meaning, and then they find themselves caught up in this sort of, big churning apparatus that's like turning them into, a caricature. And how they resist that and how they go along with it is a lot of the drama of the book. So I tried to make it funny. I tried to make it thrilling. Hopefully it is all those things. And you can pre-order it now at stephenfishbach.com. Please pre-order it. Pre-orders are like so important. Like they're more important than like post orders. So even though like you're not going to get the book for a few months, it's like tells the publishing house, hey, like people are interested in this guy, like maybe we should promote him. It tells like bookshops, like people are going to be buying this book, like let's put it in a prominent position. Like truly, like the next half of my life is dependent on how many pre-orders I get. So
would you say your writing career is truly in the hands of the fans?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not wrong. But yeah,
and they can vote with their wallet of like, do you want to see Stephen go on to have a very successful career as a writer? That if yes, go to stephenfishbach.com.
Or if you want a boring, awful future for Stephen, it's like, do you want idols and blindsides and big moves, or do you want a dud season that everyone is disappointed by? And that's how the future of my life is.
Yeah. All right. Well, Stephen, I know that the book is going to be great. I know that the first part of it has already been a piece that has won awards.
Yes. So the first section won like a pushcart prize, which is a really prestigious prize for like short fiction. And if you don't care about short fiction, you've never heard of it. My parents were like, "We're so proud of you, but we have no idea what this means." But it was validating in terms of the whole endeavor.
Yeah. Okay. Well, more to come, I'm sure, on the book, but congratulations again, stephenfishbach.com. We've got a lot to do here on the podcast this week. I'm very excited. What a great week that we have coming for you here in week 12. Charlie Davis is going to join me, and then Bryce Isaiah on the Old School interview coming out on Monday.
Banner week.
Banner week as we get ready for the finale 1 week from tonight. And we're on the street. Stephen, are you staying up late with us next week?
It's unbelievable. I'm going to do it like for the first time in a while. Yeah. I'll be on vacation with my family. I've already asked the hotel where I'm staying if I can have like a business center room. So I'll be, hopefully the connection's good.
So we'll break it all down for the finale. But first, this big final six vote. And I did think that Survivor has given us so many great final sixes over the years. And this was, I think, that on that level in terms of the drama that went into this. And Stephen, I thought it was such an interestingly structured episode because it was Kyle and Camilla's big move to flip it on Shauhin, wrongfully accuse him in some ways, even though he did have an idea about Eva. But I felt like that the story was presented so much from the perspective of Joe, the person who got in this episode.
Well, this was that was the big drama. It's like, it's so funny because like Joe had immunity, and yet it was all about, is he going to figure it out, or is he going to get like the wool pulled over his eyes? And like, it felt to me kind of is this a winner's edit or is it not? Is this Joe's moment where he like proves he's playing the game and has the reads that he needs? Or is this like the moment where he loses it? And then Kyle or Camilla, if they get to the jury, like they've got their resume piece.
Yeah. And I have so many different things that I'm thinking about this episode, but I guess, this is the thing that I've been dying to ask you about. That now I kind of feel like that after this episode where Shauhin goes to the jury, and now we know how David feels on the jury, that I'm starting to wonder if Eva, the biggest Joe stan, as Shauhin called her, is sitting next to Joe in the final three. I'm starting to wonder could this season be shaping up indeed to be a Kyle win with Camilla in fourth place, really leading the charge for a Kyle win. And is it possible, because, and I'm going to bring in like some of the rumor mill, okay? Is it possible that we could be gearing up to potentially a Kyle win and Joe is on Survivor 50?
Oh.
Could I posit that?
It was so interesting. So first of all, I want to like say, I think there's a world where it's a Camilla win. Where Camilla, because Kyle has like been so much, I think he's got the most confessionals. I mean, as of last week, he had the most confessionals of anyone in the season. And that person is often not the winner. They're like, and there's so, I mean, that's not like a reason to believe someone will win or not win. But so much of Kyle's story has been like, can I do it? Can I not do it? Will they, won't they? Now, this was his move, but I kind of feel like Camilla is the one who has like this room to pop. You know, like Kyle's been such a big character and like the biggest part of their duo. So that could argue for him being the winner. But at the same time, you could argue like this is like now Camilla's going to come in. She's part of this duo. She like takes out Kyle as her kind of winning move. And then she's kind of got this like tiered, it's like a Marianne moment where she's like this sort of like plucky underdog who comes out of nowhere. And then you've got like Joe, who's in a lot of ways is kind of like Mike Turner, you know, in the kind, I mean, both firefighters, but also like both these guys who were like honor and integrity guys who played like somewhat commanding social games, and then but like weren't necessarily like the savvy movers. And but I'm very intrigued by the question of Joe on 50, because does Joe have like returning player heat? Like he's got the least confessionals.
Well, I'm just wondering where if Joe, and I'm trying to think about this like from the perspective of, because it's been so much of Joe's story in this season, and that I think that we have speculated on this podcast, okay, well, Joe could have that winner's edit where, okay, we're really seeing Joe's story, but could this be kind of like a Russell Hantz in Survivor Samoa, where the show knew that they were bringing Russell back, and so, okay, we're really going to prop up Russell here. And just the way that this story was told, where that you don't often have this in Survivor, where the player who is on the receiving end, imagine like we got Operation Italy from Sue's perspective last season.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, let's go to, like, oh, okay, like what's going to be the reaction to the people doing the, like, we saw the people that were pulling off the blind side sort of like got like Peanuts, Charlie Brown, like teacher, wah, 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 wah. We were like inside Joe's head while it was all happening. And it wasn't because he was getting ready to play his idol. It was just like him sizing up what was going on. And I just think that's interesting. I don't even know if this is what I think is going to happen, but I just think that there's some intrigue going into this finale that I don't think this is necessarily a done deal that Joe is going to be crowned the winner next week. I think that there is this other, like, I know you love to be building worlds, Steven, both in your fiction and in Blood on the Clock Tower. And I think that there is a world that you could build where we are heading towards a Kyle win potentially.
Or a Camilla win. I just think it's like a Joe loss. So like the difference. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
And I love Camilla. I just feel like that she's been rather invisible at different points, especially in the post-merge, where I feel like it was so much Kyle's story that where Marianne did pop at the final 6. I guess there is this universe where Camilla makes a big move at 5 and then ultimately takes out Kyle, and then she is seen as this person who like made this really big move. So there's a world. I just don't feel like it is a likely scenario.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the comparison to Russell Hantz is interesting because Russell Hantz and Samoa had like more confessionals than the entire rest of the cast combined, right? Like this was the Russell show. That's an exaggeration for comic effect. However, it communicates that Russell was a big character on that season. But Joe actually has a surprisingly small number of confessionals. Like, yes, he like has as of last week, he had the second least. I think only Mitch was lower than him. Camilla had more confessionals than Joe. I kind of feel like Joe is this like, the story's kind of like being told around Joe, but Joe isn't really telling the story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's kind of like the meta of all of this as we're like factoring in everything. But let's talk about from the actual game perspective here, because I had been speculating that, okay, a move was coming, but I didn't think that either Kyle or Shauhin was going to take the move. I'll make the move on Joe or Eva. I thought that they might be looking at each other. We actually got on the reward, Shauhin was considering, okay, we should make the move on Eva. Yeah. Now, I don't know if that ever got off the ground because that Shauhin did not write down Eva's name at Tribal Council. Shauhin did not seem to think that Kyle or Camilla or Mitch was going to be voting with him to take out Eva. So I don't know how, where that plan ended up petering out for Shauhin, but it was enough to get Kyle's wheels turning to think, okay, now we'll frame Shauhin for making a move against Joe and Eva.
Yeah, well, and I think like at one point you have kind of Shauhin saying, I think it was to Kyle, like, we shouldn't vote out Eva because, she's not going to win the game. And then we've got Eva on the jury, like advocating, banging the gong for Joe.
Yes,
so like we don't vote out Eva, just for strategic reasons, which I think is the correct read. But it was so interesting the way that Shauhin saying this to Kyle kind of gave Kyle the moral permission. And so much of Kyle's story has been like seeking out that moral permission to go ahead and sort of like make up this ruse, which was half truth. Like, hey, guess what? Like Shauhin is talking about blindsiding Eva, and then half a lie on top of that, which was this whole idol story. And I'm curious, like, what do you think? Like, I thought it was like ingenious, okay, so because it's built on truth, there is something there. It's enough for Joe to like grab onto. But the idol is what really sells it. The idol is kind of like where the meat is, because suddenly, how long has Shauhin been keeping this from me?
Yeah, well, I think that the idol is really the part of it that makes it, that is sort of like booby traps it, where Joe can't double back to Shauhin and then say like, hey, I heard you have an idol. Because like, you can't say to him, because then he'll play his idol at Tribal Council and we can't vote him out. So that's the thing where, and Joe was trying to feel around to see if he was going to be able to get that. But I almost wondered if it was maybe too much of that. Couldn't you just go back and tell Joe, hey, Joe, Shauhin on the reward talked to me about, and then maybe does Shauhin say like, no, Kyle brought that up. That was Kyle's idea. And then like he said, she said.
Well, in a way that like, what's interesting is like, I think that the addition, or he, and I had that thought too. Like, what do you need that extra like flourish? Like, what does that give you? Because it's like it's sort of verifiable, right? Like Shauhin can like empty his pockets, he can empty his bag. I mean, ultimately you can never like prove the absence of something. But it becomes more of something that could be fact checked. But what I think it does is that it makes the move, Kyle's own in a way. If he just went back, oh, hey, guess what? Like Shauhin said this, basically he's a tattletale, like he's not like making a move. He's just like repeating information. But if he like creates this little like flourish on top of it, then he is making it his own kind of like strategic thing out. He's like making a strategic meal out of this. And also I think like, if he just went back and said, hey, Shauhin said this, Joe could be like, yeah, and Shauhin's always running scenarios, and probably Joe would feel some paranoia about it, but he might not think like, oh, that means he's coming for me now. But the fact that there's this other thing that like allegedly Camilla has seen too, all these people have seen this idol, but like Joe hasn't seen the idol, like, why is he keeping it from me specifically? I think like adds this level of betrayal to it. And you're right. I think like you've got to make them move in secret because of that. And that kind of like makes it harder for Joe to straight up confront Shauhin.
Let's talk about this from Joe's perspective, because this is where I think that there's a lot of interesting ways that Joe could have handled this. So we see after they all get back from the challenge that it's Kyle who comes to Joe and tells Joe, hey, just so you know, Shauhin, he has this idol and he is thinking about making this move tonight. He wants to vote out Eva. And we see Joe, okay, I need time to process all of this. He's going to talk to Camilla, and Camilla says, yes, Shauhin showed her the idol. And then I thought it was interesting. A tree fell on Camilla while she was trying to lie.
That was a crazy moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was like a frond, which can be quite heavy. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's
as we knew from Gabler.
Well, it was like, I think that it was a signal to Joe. Like, hey, Joe, like, why? Like, this person's lying to you. Yeah. But Joe takes that information. Okay, he's gonna sit on it. He talks to Eva. What do we do here? How do we approach this? And Joe ultimately decides to go with Kyle and Camilla. Now, it's so interesting because we had this very similar scenario earlier in the season on the Thomas vote, where once again, Kyle and Camilla conspired to get one over on Joe and Shauhin.
Yeah.
And that it does not seem like that is really a consideration. I mean, and that happened like 10 days ago.
Exactly. It's not yet. A long time for us, but not a long time for them.
It was a long time for us.
Yeah.
In reality, I think that was like day 9 or whatever, day 10, and this is day 22. So this happened like 12 days ago. And so, but it does not seem to really be front of mind for Joe that Kyle and Camilla got one over on us once. That could they be doing this to us again?
Yeah, and maybe they don't believe that like there was one gotten over, you know? I mean, like I guess they did have the whole like, interesting. Yes. It's sort of surprising that with 6 people left in the game, nobody like somehow this alliance is still secret. Like, do you believe that? Like, is it how secret can it be? I mean, they're there's 2 people from they've been on the same tribe every single day.
Yes.
Somehow they've got like a secret alliance. They're running off into the woods together. Like there's 6 people. When you're playing Survivor, you know where everybody is. You know, you know who's in an interview, you know he's going to the water well, because you're always worried about who's looking for idols, and you're also worried about like who's talking to who. And with literally 5 other people, you're just keeping track. Everyone knows where everyone is. So the idea that they could have a secret conversation and it could like somehow be a secret alliance still, like explain this to me, Rob.
And I also don't really know, what does Camilla do when she's not with Kyle? Because we see the scenes of Camilla with Kyle, but we don't really explore Camilla on her own too much when she's not with Kyle.
She was just lying there with Mitch.
She just lays there.
Yeah.
Okay.
She and Mitch were just lying there.
So I have an interesting way that Joe could have handled this that I want to posit to you. And I wonder if this is Joe's best move here in this scenario. He knows that either Shauhin or Kyle and Camilla, or maybe just Camilla, somebody here is lying to Joe. Is Joe's best move to just vote out Mitch? That for Joe, that the status quo benefits Joe more than anybody else. Everybody else benefits by Joe changing trajectory here. So whether it's go with Shauhin and vote out Kyle, or go with Kyle and Camilla and vote out Shauhin, the best option on the table is whatever he needs to do to make sure Mitch still goes home, because I think it's very unlikely that after this that Shauhin and Kyle are going to be on the same page.
That's a really good point. Like, no matter what, these guys are opposed. I mean, I guess the fear is that, like, you actually think Shauhin is gunning for you or gunning for Eva, but like, like suddenly you feel at risk at the final 5 and maybe even at the final 4. But to your point, like, but what Kyle was saying was that Shauhin came to him, right?
Yes.
So from Joe's perspective, there's a world of a Kyle, Shauhin, Camilla alliance at the final 5 that he suddenly has to protect against. And it's basically down to him winning immunity because Eva has an idol, right? And so like, if he believes, but you're right, like if he believes Kyle's got his back, he's good. If he believes Shauhin has got his back, he's good. I love that. I was just like recording, I just recorded Tyson's podcast, and one thing we were saying, like, why doesn't he just sit back, out all the info, and let the 2 of them fight? But I think you're right. Like, even better than that might just be letting it all just like sticking with the status quo.
Yeah, because I think that there's an interesting way that this could have gone for Joe. And listen, Joe is not Suri. Joe is Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
But if Joe and Eva come to Shauhin and basically, they feel like, okay, the plan is going to be Mitch tonight. Okay. They're going to put that basically, like, you could either out Kyle's information very close to tribal council and say, like, hey, just so you know, like, we're going with, like, Kyle told me that, about your idol and everything. And we are like, they're not with you. We're voting out Mitch tonight. Okay. This is what we're doing. Okay. So you have 3 votes on Mitch. Kyle and Camilla still voting for Shauhin. And maybe it's even like, hey, Shauhin, make sure you play your idol tonight. Okay. That now there's 2 votes.
That's a great idea. Be like, you got to play your idol tonight because you're getting votes.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. I think I have this. I have this a little backwards. I think if you tell Kyle and Camilla that no, the plan is not okay. We thank you for bringing this to my attention, but we're taking out Mitch tonight. That Shauhin doesn't have a leg to stand on anymore. He's not going to be able to do anything because let's maybe like get him to flush his idol tonight. But basically, just keep the votes on Mitch because that for Shauhin and Kyle, like they're not getting back together. And Joe's best case scenario is him and Eva and Shauhin, who's like never made a move, go to the final three.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the only danger there, I really love that because I think you're right. Like you can't like at the final 6, and even Joe seems to say this, and I actually like we have to give like props to Joe because he actually, based on last week's trailer, my read was, oh, Joe's going to be so paranoid, he's going to be spiraling out, the Shauhin thing is going to blow up. He actually handled it pretty beautifully, right? Like he didn't get the correct result, but the process was great. Like taking a step back, trying to assess, is Kyle lying to me? Okay, Camilla could be lying to me. I'm going to go talk to Shauhin. Then at tribal council, trying to feel it all out. Although it is kind of funny because there was this whole drama of, is Joe going to figure it out at tribal council? But even if he had, there was still like everybody else was still voting for Shauhin. Like, I guess he could have like created a tie vote, against his own alliance if he'd wanted to. But he did kind of think through it beautifully. But you're right. I guess the only danger there is, let's say he says that, there's still going to be 3 votes on Shauhin in that world. So he is still like Mitch, Camilla, and Kyle are voting for Shauhin. He, Eva, and Shauhin, let's say they vote for Mitch. It's a tie vote. Shauhin is immune.
Yeah, so maybe you have to tell Kyle and Camilla we're voting for Mitch. Tell Shauhin, okay, we're not doing this, or that they were coming for you, but we're voting for Mitch tonight. And then, if anything, you get them arguing with each other, Kyle and Shauhin, and Mitch is gone, and they've lost the Mitch piece. And so Eva and Joe with Eva's idol, they are still, both sides are going to be fighting for Joe and Eva.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I really love that idea. That's a really, really smart. I mean, there is just the risk. I guess, like, if you are worried that Shauhin is actively targeting Eva, I don't know, like, is there a danger? Like,
I guess you could have Eva play her idol if you're truly worried about that, and then figure it out from there. But I just think that there is a way that you could have still gotten Mitch out there, and that. Look, that there's the numbers are a little complicated, and again, I'm trying to think of this on the fly. The people out there are there, but if I'm Joe and Eva, I think that the right move is still get out Mitch, because Mitch is the one pawn on the board that one side could use against me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The other thing is, I think people get into this like binary idea of like, he's coming for me or he's not coming
for me. That's me. I'm always thinking outside the box.
Yeah. But like, if you're, and I think Joe kind of had this sense of, obviously, these are smart people. Like, they know that it's like, I could beat them. Like, they have to be thinking about targeting me. And I think being able to separate that of like, okay, people are thinking about moves. People are putting moves out there. That doesn't mean they're making those moves, and even if they want to, like, maybe tomorrow they won't want to do that, maybe like, and so like, I really like your strategy here, because suddenly their overwhelming self-interest becomes to like keep the Joe Eva duo. I mean, there is a world we're at 5, right? Like the fear would be that Shauhin, Kyle, and Camilla get together at 5 and vote out Joe. Like, that has to be Joe's fear. So if he thinks, hey, Kyle and Camilla are with me and Shauhin is against me, voting out Shauhin here, and like, I guess like considering Mitch as disposable, it seems like nobody's worried about Mitch being that swing vote at 5.
No, nobody's worried about Mitch being that swing vote at 5. And I predict that Mitch will get voted out at 5 also.
I think so too. I agree with that. I mean, but do you think, like, I feel like on any other season, we'd be talking about Mitch as a finalist, because, he Mitch, doesn't seem to be a factor finalist. In the game. Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I do think Eva's going to be a 0 vote finalist, unless Joe gets voted out. But yeah, do you think that there's a world where Mitch makes it to the end? Like,
I don't, because I think that Kyle, I mean, and again, the one world where he makes it to the end, I guess, is potentially if the scenario that you talked about where Camilla decides to vote out Kyle at the final 5. If she decides to do that, And again, I don't know if there's 3 people that will write down Kyle's name at the final 5.
Right. Because if Joe and Eva believe Kyle, like Joe is not going to turn on Kyle here.
No.
So it's possible. I think the likeliest scenario is they just vote out Mitch at 5. And there does seem to be some fear that he's got like a powerful
Mitch could
story.
win immunity. I think otherwise Mitch is done, because even when Kyle comes to Camilla with like, hey, I've got a plan for us. And hey, good news. We're both, this plan is going to get us both to the final 4. And one of us is going to get to the final 3. The plan that Kyle brought to Camilla was not like, hey, I got a great plan for both of us to get into the final 3. That their plan was, hey, we will get from 6. I'm going to get us both to 4. And then the ride is over. And then I'll get to the final 3 and you can vote for me.
Well, but I think he's got to be aware that they will probably be in fire making against each other. And I think that's my get. Like they have like Eva's going to take Joe. Joe's going to take Eva. Mm-hmm. So unless one of them wins immunity, and they have to assume that they're in the fire making against each other, but that benefits them. Like if either of them wants to win, they need the other one there on the jury being like, we got to vote for this guy. Like, so
it's a good scenario for Kyle moving forward. And I will say, with another immunity challenge win tonight, we talked about this during season 47 with Kyle, where, hey, if Kyle breaks the record for most immunity challenges, doesn't he have to be on Survivor 50? I don't think one person's talked about Survivor Kyle 47 coming back for Survivor 50.
I don't think, he didn't quite get there with the record either.
But
Joe could do it.
Joe is 2 immunity challenges away from breaking the record. It's entirely possible that he could do it. And he also had, I think, the one last week. I mean, Camilla won just like that.
Yeah.
Where that easily could have been 5 for Joe at this point. So even if he is not a confessional beast, like if he breaks the record for most immunity challenges in the season and doesn't go on to win, like I'm just wondering if somebody from Survivor 48 is going to come back. I think that so many of us have just ceded the victory to Joe and thought about maybe there's somebody else who gets to the end, like a Kyle could come back for 50. I just wonder, maybe we had it backwards. Maybe it could be Kyle who wins and Joe who comes back for 50.
And I really think this could have been like the why Joe loses moment of like, whoever's there, whether it's Kyle or Camilla at the end. And I you're kind of convincing me that Kyle is clearly the bigger character here. Kyle is the Charlie, right, of this duo. Charlie also didn't win for what it's worth, but Kyle is the Charlie. The story is much more told from his point of view in terms of that duo. Though I do feel like Camilla has been more on point in terms of like Kyle's kind of been wishy-washy, but okay. I don't even know.
I don't want to make it like anti-Camilla. I love Camilla. I think that she is like the best game strategy person on the season. I just think that she's been underrepresented in the story. It's been much more Kyle's story, and in the movie, Camilla is Kyle's friend. It's not Camilla as the star of the movie.
But like, isn't there like a Kenzie story here where, Kenzie wins against this much bigger character? Like, could Camilla be Kenzie, in that world?
But it's just that they're part of a duo, and the person in the duo that we've seen so much more is Kyle.
Is Kyle.
That Kenzie wasn't necessarily like,
You're talking me into the Kyle win. I mean, like, this has been a story about Kyle's like journey to making this big move.
The biggest moves of the season have been Kyle playing the idol, David getting voted out, and now Shauhin getting voted out. And, Kyle is a big part of all 3 of those things.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I do think like this is the sort of thing where, it's like Dee in Survivor 45 had her like, this is where I got one over on you. And the jury rewards that. If Joe wins 6 immunities, would you feel, you're a juror, are you voting for Joe if he wins? Like you broke a record.
It's a very strong point to vote for him. I think it's just like, what is the case against him? Where if Kyle stands up in that final tribal council and talks about, well, actually, I got you to vote out your best friend. And we made up that story and you got duped and you voted out your other best friend, David, because of what we told you. So yeah, Joe did great in the challenges, but he, at the end of the day, didn't really have his finger on the pulse of what was going on. He thought that I was with him in this alliance built about honor and integrity. And I love the guy. This is one hell of a guy, amazing dad. I want to be like him when I grow up. But I was the one who was the brains of the operation. I was the one who actually was pulling the strings.
Yeah. Do you think that yeah, I mean, I think that's like a tough argument to come back from. And I also think, especially in New Era Survivor, people really favor some sort of secret move or move that someone made. I do think, like in old era Survivor, you know, the strong silent guy could beat the savvy strategist in a final, but I'm not sure if that's the case anymore.
I want to ask you about this from Shauhin's perspective, because he had such an interesting episode also. He starts by winning the reward challenge, and he gets put in the unenviable position of having to pick the people to go on the reward to get the letters. He picks Joe. He picks Kyle. Oh, the really no appreciation from Kyle for Shauhin taking him on the reward. Did not buy him anything at the end of the day. So then we get to see that, okay, Shauhin, his wheels are turning, and he feels like, okay, that we have to do something, you and I. We have to make it happen. And ultimately, then we see Kyle go to work after that. Shauhin, after the conversations with Joe, is there anything that he can do where it's like, oh, I've been with Joe for 22 days. He's talking to me in a way that he's never approached me before. He's obviously being passive aggressive about something. That could Shauhin have done anything?
I mean, looking at it from our perspective, of course, we know like what's eating at Joe. And we know that, like, oh, what if Shauhin just went to Joe and said, hey, something's come up between us and I want to, you know, figure out what it is because, you know, it feels like you're worried about me and I'm worried someone put a bug in your ear, you know, not in the, you know, Survivor, whatever that was way where there's a bug in the woman's ear, but, you know, in the,
Jennifer Lanzetti?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of people who stood up,
you know,
yes, the first, I think, maybe ever
stand up at tribal council.
But yeah, so, you know, I do think you looking at it from our perspective, of course, you know, that there's like a way that Joe is like trying to work through this. And like, if only Shauhin had gone to him and said, hey, you know, let's like figure this out because I see you're really upset at me about something. It was funny that like Joe claimed he was going like full parent mode and Kyle was like full kid mode, you know, like, oh, dad is mad at me and I hate dad. And like, oh, why does dad treat me that way? But yeah, it was a good moment. I was rooting for him. I really was rooting for this group because it did feel kind of like Shauhin, you know, he got set up. Were you rooting for the plan to come together or for Joe to figure it out?
I mean, I was hoping for the plan to come together because I wanted to see some kind of swing happen.
Some sort of action.
I do feel very badly for Shauhin, who ends up going out in this way. First off, Shauhin's mom was referenced quite a bit in this episode. I had the chance to meet her at the Survivor 48 premiere event, and she was, in fact, as lovely as advertised by Shauhin in the episode. And so that was cool to, you know, you hear about somebody on the show, but then if you know who they are, it's, you know, a nice thing. For Shauhin, I wonder about Shauhin the juror and how he's going to approach this.
Big question,
Now, he stands up after this and he's like, hey, is anybody here going to give me a hug? But in that moment, Shauhin is processing this information and like,
yes,
I played the best game.
Yeah.
They had to get me. They had to get me because I was going to win. And so, okay, this is a respect move. They had to get me because they couldn't get past me. Now, not that Shauhin played a bad game, but ultimately the reasons why they had to take out Shauhin at this spot was not necessarily that they felt like that they could not beat Shauhin.
Right.
And tell me if you feel differently, but it was more that Shauhin was clogging up a spot in the final three with Joe and Eva.
And yeah, like a spot in the final three and just giving them kind of like overwhelming leverage at 5 too, right? So if Kyle and Camilla want to get to 4, they can't do it without getting rid of Shauhin. And this is the moment.
And so Shauhin goes to the jury and potentially maybe Mitch, eventually maybe Camilla goes to the jury and explains to him like, no, actually, that Kyle told Joe that you had the idol and that's why Joe voted you out. And when Shauhin learns that it was not necessarily, it wasn't that we couldn't beat Shauhin. We were lied to about Shauhin. We got tricked into voting out Shauhin. How do you think Shauhin processes that? Is he mad at Kyle and Camilla or is he mad at Joe?
I think the narrative on the jury is going to be Joe claimed to play this honor and integrity game, and then he sold out his allies when like Kyle got in his head and made him sell out his allies. Like he got rid of David, like you said, like he got rid of Shauhin, and like this was not an honor and integrity move. He gave us his word, and then he cut us as soon as this like paranoia started to get to him. And I think you're right that like here he is giving hugs, but when you're voted out, like you're the star of the show. And I've talked about this before, but like everyone's talking about you. You're getting your torch snuffed. You're walking down the path, like they're giving you your interview, and then you go to the jury house, and you're not the star of the show anymore, and you're just fuming about it. So like to your point, like you're processing here. You're like it's a big moment, but like later is when the bitterness and recrimination set in, and I do think like, especially with a potentially bitter jury, that I could see Shauhin. I honestly could see Shauhin like being one of those guys who gives the speech that absolutely like burns Joe, but then like votes for him anyways. Like, I still love you, guy. Here it is.
Yeah. I really do think that, and I have like complained loudly about the post-merge, but I do think that the finale does set up a very interesting final tribal council scenario where potentially with it's Joe, Eva, and Kyle of what is this jury going to do? And is Joe going to be able to articulate to the jury why he should win the game? Is Eva going to, stump for herself? Is she going to stump for Joe from the final three? And then you have the wild cards of like, if Camilla is that final juror, does she really, stump for Kyle at Ponderosa and then make a very compelling case as sort of like foreperson of the jury to be able to like swing the votes towards Kyle? I think it's going to be a really interesting final tribal council if it ends up being Joe, Eva, and Kyle.
I bet yes, and then Camilla is there, or Kyle if they're flipped.
Yeah.
But like, is there like to provide credibility to all of these claims? I mean, that's unbelievable that you have receipts. Kyle can say, "I had a secret alliance." Camilla's over there on the jury. Yeah, you did. If they're next to each other, like it's so much harder because they're like, "No, you didn't have a secret alliance. I had a secret alliance." But now like Kyle can be like, and I got this big move, and Camilla can be over there like, yes, he did, and so like to have that kind of back and forth with the final juror, who really is the most influential juror, it's really, I mean, maybe you're selling me on this world where it's Kyle, because I think you're right. Like that would be a really satisfying ending to this story, and we know that, or we've heard that like Jeff is hype on it. So the idea that it is Kyle who triumphs over, this Joe Eva duo that's nominated the season really makes a lot of sense to me. And we've got
And a Joe and Kyle standoff in the final tribal council with kind of
feels
like
epic.
A trip to Survivor 50, maybe as the consolation prize for the loser. Like there's a lot of intrigue.
I can see Kyle. I just don't like, I feel like Joe does not have the number of confessionals. Like he clearly is not like the best confessional giver. And this is like the Joe season, right? No. This season, like it spoke to him. It was like, this was a season where all the stars aligned. He found this like daughter figure, he like had this like beautiful moment where he got to honor his sister and say like goodbye to her. He had like David over there as like the other honor and integrity guy, and they could like have their honor and integrity off. It just felt like the stars aligned for like this to be Joe's season. But like, would you cast Joe again? Like, I love him as a character. Yeah. I don't know if I would cast him again.
Listen, he is not my personal cup of tea as like one of my all-time Survivor character favorites, but I can tell you that my mom watches the show, and this is her favorite character by far. It's not necessarily the amount of confessionals that you have, that when like that scene with Joe talking about his sister tonight, in addition to the scene with Joe and Eva. These are things that are not necessarily captured in confessional counts, but they're moments that connect with the audience. And I think that Joe has had a few of these where he's got, as Shauhin said, like he's got these like walk around with his shirt off all the time, but he is like, he's got a great look for Survivor. He is a fan favorite to a lot of people who watch the show. And so I think that if he does not win the season, like I think that he is like very viable, I think, to be one of the returnees they bring back.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I do hear you. I just like a returnee season is such like a different beast than a new player season, where so much of a new player season is that sense of discovery and like learning how to play the game and like connecting as humans. And the returnee player, like if Amanda Kimmel's out there, like, she's not gonna like connect as a human with Joe. She's like, I'm here for my paycheck. Let's go. Fourth time's the charm.
That's how she is. No,
what?
She's that she loves. She's great at connecting with humans.
Well, she probably. I just mean like all these like
Steven,
7-time players.
Beast Mode Cowboy after he collapsed in in a challenge.
It was a different era.
Yeah, but especially when it comes to like a recent returnee, like from a season. Like, you don't even have had to have made like a gigantic impact. Sometimes it's just like, oh, this person's hot off of a season, boom. Yeah. And maybe, if Joe doesn't win the season and Survivor 50 was in 2 years, like maybe not. But I think that especially if he ends up getting the consolation prize in this season, like I certainly could see it.
Yeah. Look, I really think Joe brings something cool and unique to the show that a lot of new era contestants don't. And I think that I would love to see him because I think it would be an interesting balance to the group. And, I hope you're right. That I would be a very Kyle, here's your $1 million check, and Joe, here's your ticket to Fiji, from Fiji to Fiji.
Yeah. Round trip.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you about Shauhin here, Rob, because, a lot has been, Shauhin has certainly talked about his own great game. Could Shauhin have won at the final 3 against Joe and Eva?
I do not think so. And maybe we could see, maybe like if it goes on to be where Kyle wins against Joe and then, Shauhin looks at this like that should have been me. I would have been there. This jury was very upset about the way that Joe treated them. I talked to all these people on the way out the door. I had good relationships with Mary, with Mitch, with all these Chrissy, all these people as they went out the game, as they were all cursing out Joe. And maybe he feels like that he could have won it. I think that Shauhin's path to get to the end, I think he had these numbers of like these different people that would have worked with him. I think he needed to take the shot at Joe earlier. You see him, he's thinking about it. He talks about the patience that he's had in the game, but I wonder if there was an opportunity, maybe as recently as the last episode when Joe did not win immunity. And there was potential of Shauhin, Camilla, Mary, and Mitch that he could have had 4 votes against Joe at that tribal council.
Yeah. I mean, I said at the time, and I think it's true. Like, I think it's true from Shauhin's perspective. If you vote Joe out at 7, like you're gone at 6, like this is the thing that's keeping you safe. So, I mean, even in this episode, he was talking about, when do I make this move? Do I wait till fire making and hope I can get him out there? Like, do I wait till 5? I kind of think like it's hard with someone who's winning challenges so consistently as Joe, but like, I do kind of think you wait till 5 or like, you wait till the last possible moment. And that seems to be the way to do it. Right. If
well,
you
you're
vote
all
out
in on that moment, though, then the person wins immunity, and it's like, well, okay, well, I guess.
Well, but that's the risk. Like it's like like Kyle said last week, it cuts both ways. You vote out the person too late, and you regret it forever, or you make the move too soon, and you're gone next. I mean, like the stars have to align. But I think what you have to do is like you figure out the best time for yourself, and then you kind of have to hope the stars align.
So I think it's interesting because that in the case of the 2 hosts of the Survivor Know-It-Alls, I think that if you were going to say and point out each of our flaws, I think maybe you say to Rob, hey, Rob, you made the move too early. Yeah. That you were not able to flip on Alex at 7 and then make it all the way to a 2 in a season that's the final 2. Steven, perhaps it was too late to wait, that there was no chance to vote out JT because then he was going to go on and win these immunity
I stand by my choices. I made the right. Listen, I hear those criticisms and I stand by it. But and I apparently Kyle when he said that he continued to say like Stephen Fishbach. He told me. So he was like, as Stephen Fishbach regretted, not making the right move. But anyway, so I didn't mean to interrupt. I still think it didn't work out, but I still think it was the right call because I think if I had voted out JT at 7, which I think was like I would have been gone next.
Right. But in your dreams when you were out there, because he's not going to win the immunity at some point, and maybe we could take a shot.
And I was very close to the immunity at 4 and 3. So 3 we drop a ball at the same time.
No shade whatsoever. I'm just saying that you draw it up of like, okay, well, I have to like get when he is vulnerable, then we have the opportunity to make the move.
Yeah, but it's a balance. And like if I had been right and he had lost immunity, I would have won. I made a choice. I still think it was the right choice. I think the risk at 7 of voting him out was greater than the risk of waiting, especially like even looking back. I like, and again, like maybe, there's maybe like everyone always has to justify their choices. There's plenty of choices I have second guessed in my life, but that was the correct one.
You're doing great. Your book is available for pre-sale right now.
But if I'd won $1 million when I was 28, probably I would have written the book faster.
No, probably you would have been like rubbing elbows with the glitterati. You wouldn't have had time to write the book. Same thing for me. If I would have won my season, we probably wouldn't be here right now having all the fun that we'd
have put it in crypto in 2008. My God, I'd be a trillionaire.
Yeah, I'm just trying to illustrate that like we're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. No, I hear you, but that's it. Like you're right. Like it's and so I just think, but I'm trying to illustrate, like, you kind of have to like just take that risk and you like say, this is the way I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
And whatever, I have to like, hopefully it works out. And if it doesn't, I'm a loser.
Yeah. And I'm saying the same thing. I'm saying like, I come down on like, you have to take the shot and then you'll figure the rest out after. Like it's not a foregone conclusion that the bad thing is going to happen to you next. Like that's tomorrow's problem.
But it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to win the challenge. I mean, especially, you don't even know what the challenge is.
Yeah.
You know what the social dynamics are. You can read the room. You have no clue what the next challenge is.
Yeah. And pick a bad choice and go with it. That's it. And don't look back.
That's right.
That's Survivor, baby.
Yeah. It's like in Fast and the Furious 3 Tokyo Drift, when the character says, life's simple. You make choices and you don't look back. I think about that a lot.
That's right. That's what we always say.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Steven, are you ready to bring us the coveted award, the world famous Fishy Award, sponsored by StevenFishbach.com.
So we were getting sponsored.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The Fishy Award presented by StevenFishbach.com.
All right, this is a tricky one this week.
Time to award the Fishy this week.
So this is a tough one. On the one hand, you have Kyle, who, by the way, like, should we just say, like, Shauhin might have lost the game when he invited Kyle on reward. Like, normally I don't think that, like, you can't like put too much stock in that. But like, if he hadn't done that, they would not have had that conversation. Joe's probably off having a confessional about this emotional letter he gets. So they're stuck, but they're 2 of them on reward. Like, of course they're talking strategy. They're running ideas. And then Shauhin kind of like, what about this? What about Eva? And like, boom, Kyle has permission. But that's
Shauhin begs to the Survivor gods, please, why won't you ever let me win a challenge? I've been like, my legs are so beautiful. I never missed leg day, unlike David. And I have all these arms challenges. And then that finally he wins the reward. And yes. And then what fresh hell is this? It was like a monkey's paw.
Yeah, it really was. Like, truly, I don't. Okay, but anyway, back to the more salient question of the Fishy.
Who should he have taken? Who should have been the third person? Eva?
I mean, like, I don't think he made the wrong choice. It's just like unfortunate that it happened that way. Like, I think like in these rewards, especially with like the family stuff, even though there's only 4 days left in the season, people are so fixated on it. You kind of have to like, who deserves what? Like, obviously, you take Joe to the family reward, and then like Kyle's getting married, and I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Can I also just say that it was a little rich that Mitch was complaining about the whole thing?
I know, he was the reward last week or something, or like
he was complaining about not going on the rewards. He was also complaining about that he's playing so stupid. He's not making a move.
Yeah, very funny. I did also like that the episode literally started with Mitch saying, I've been waiting to make a move, and the time is now. Like, I feel like every single one of the past 3 episodes has started with like Mitch being like, this is the moment. This is my moment. But that's why I thought that it wasn't going to happen, because it's just like,
Mitch is super frustrated. It's like, Mitch, you're frustrated?
Yeah.
You're frustrated, Mitch?
Yeah. Okay. So on the one hand, so there's 2 options, I think, and I think they're both pretty competitive for who gets the Fishy. On the one hand, you have Kyle, who takes this little moment of truth from Shauhin and then creates this plan where he gets Camilla involved. He makes up this idea of a fake idol, and then he puts it into Joe's ear with the verifiability of Camilla as, you know, that like, hey, Shauhin is targeting you. He gets Joe to turn on his best ally other than Eva, and sets up this incredible final tribal potential narrative that I think really might be a decisive argument for the jury of, hey, we concretely tricked you to vote out one of your best allies, and like you have not been on top of the game like everybody thinks you have. So Kyle is a really powerful option here. Number two, last week David stood up on the jury, and I don't feel like we rewarded that enough. I was talked out of it, and a lot of people were really mad at me. So there's also the possibility of giving it to David there, as
I would have bet my life you're gonna make a case for Camilla. No, you went back to David standing up.
Yeah. I just think, you know, didn't get the props it deserved.
I did hear from people like, no, Steven was a coward for not giving it to David.
I heard from those people too. I gave it, you know.
Okay, so last week I did talk you into giving it to Camilla. I think that David is the logical choice for the Fishy Award. Camilla has been pushing for Kyle to make the move for a couple of weeks, and you have been astutely saying that, it's like, that's her job. She has to get him. Yeah. If he's not going with her, she's doing a bad job. But at least this was the week where Kyle answered the call and ended up making the move and setting this all into motion and setting this up, where we're talking about potentially a Kyle win being a very likely scenario. I think it's a coin flip between Kyle and Joe right now. And because Kyle has put himself into that position, I would say Fishy for Kyle.
Yeah, Fishy for Kyle. I was joking. I mean, this is a pretty much a no-brainer. I was very I was ready to give the Fishy to Joe if he figured it out. But it was sort of like a mano. Like, can Kyle pull the wool over Joe's eyes, or can like Joe piece it together? And one mono won, and that mono was Kyle.
Yeah. This is a question I was thinking about, and I would love to get your answer on. Is it more likely, if you're on Survivor, and this was the dilemma that Joe is in tonight, is it more likely that you are being actively lied to by a player, or is it more likely that you are being, I'm trying to think of how I would describe it, covertly lied to? Okay. Yeah. So because Joe was either that Kyle has made up a lie and has made up a untrue fact about Shauhin, or Shauhin is secretly lying to me and not telling me what he is doing. It's not like that they're both telling you something. It's like, which is the more likely thing to have been true, is what Joe had to answer.
And I think the answer is probably the thing that wasn't true, right? That Shauhin is plotting against you, because
it is the more believable thing.
Because at the final six, everyone is thinking, Joe is thinking of himself as the biggest threat in the game, right? So he has to believe that other people are thinking of targeting him in that way. So it seems like it's totally credible that that Shauhin, who has been his like best buddy, is like, how do I get one over on my best buddy?
Yeah.
And I think the fact that Kyle brought Eva into it probably, stirred Joe's protective instincts in a way where he's like, I can't let that happen.
Yeah. No, from Joe's perspective, it totally makes sense. I mean, Joe's sitting there like, wait, what is it? The final six of a Survivor season, and nobody's ever trying to make a move?
Someone's got to come for me. Yeah.
How they would never have a season. A Survivor 48, all these players are so smart. There's no chance it's the final six and somebody's not trying to make a move.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Earlier tonight, it was announced that there's a new vote for Survivor 50. And this is the first time that they put out a poll with just one question. Steve Fishbach, should there be idols in Survivor 50? The people are dying to know.
I can't even imagine. Like, this seems like the biggest layup of all. Like, everyone wants idols. Like, occasionally you'll see someone on the internet be like, what if we just went back to no idols? And then
it's a straw man that Jeff brings up. He's like, and people say, oh, like, well, what if you just did a season without any idols? Like, well, like, there's a reason why, like, okay, we could try it. It just seems like to me that nobody, this is going to be like 99-1.
Yeah. Here's the only argument for it, is that they can get in the players' heads on Survivor 50, because the players in Survivor 50, every one of the binaries, right? Every one of the choices is going to be something that they're thinking either they're doing it or they're not. What if, people are going to be considering, what if no idols did win?
Yeah, until day 2 when somebody finds the beware advantage. And then, I mean, I think that you could have like, should the idols be regular or should there be beware advantages? Like, you know, should there be advantages outside of idols in the game? I think that those could have been very valid things to ask, but I can't think of one person who's saying, I don't want there to be idols. Maybe how many idols should be hidden in the game? Like, people like idols, they probably don't want 7 idols, you know, at the point where you get some of these seasons like a heroes versus healers versus hustlers, where Ben just keeps finding the idol, playing it, going back, finding it again. I mean, I think that that becomes repetitive for the audience. But I, you know, talk to thousands of Survivor fans, and I don't know anybody that's like, Rob, get rid of the idol.
You'll occasionally see that one post, like, why can't they go back to the old ways? No idols, 39 days. And then, you know, I mean, Sean Rector, if he's out there, he'll probably be like, what's an idol? You know, like, he'll be delighted to like have no idols.
Yeah, perhaps. Okay.
Yeah.
Steven, did you happen to catch my appearance on the Drop Your Buffs podcast this week?
I caught some clips of it and it was delightful.
Yeah, definitely. Check that out. Fun interview over on Drop Your Buffs with Sean and Evan this week. Steven, of course, StevenFishbach.com.
Yes. Yeah. So again, like, pre-order if you know, just you want to read this book, you know, the book sounds good. You don't want to, you want to like burn it, you know, you want to just support me.
Encourage the book burning,
well,
Steven. Okay.
If the sales lead to the burning, I'm okay with the burning. You know, you want to support me, you know, as kindness. You really want to stick it to me, order this book to really screw me over, you know, that's a way to do that too.
Okay. StevenFishbach.com coming January 27th. Okay. Oh, it's gonna be a big birthday time this year.
That's right. It's right after my birthday. So that'll be like a lovely present to me. But yes, please. It's a bit of a wait. So again, like someone in my family was like, why would I pre-order this 8 months in advance? I was like, no, it's really important that you do that. So please do that. Yeah.
Okay. It's the same thing with Survivor 50. Like, why do I have to vote now? The season's not for a year. Like, no. You have to vote now.
Yeah, the production is making the decisions now. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. What else is going on? Oh, Patreon. robswebsite.com/patron. Join us on Friday for the Survivor Q&A, as so many interesting things that we talked about from this episode. I really do feel like that this was a real bounce back episode for this season, setting up a lot of intrigue going into the final week. You can call in and talk about it with me live at 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Also, Josh Wigler and I are breaking down everything from Survivor Heroes versus Villains, as we talked about that season's penultimate episode this past week, and that final 6.
Who goes home there?
It was Rupert went home. Spoiler alert. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Also, speaking of Survivor Heroes versus Villains, I got to speak with the great Parvati Shallow, who was on doing some press, talking about that she has a new book. Had a great interview with Parvati. You could hear that if you missed it this week. That's both in the podcast feed and watch it in our YouTube channel at watchrhap.com. Guess what? We've got Big Brother announcement, Steven.
Whoa.
Big Brother is going to be back, I believe, July 10th. And so luckily, you won't have to watch 1 second of Big Brother 27, but Mike Bloom and Taryn Armstrong got together to talk about what's coming up, including some 90-minute episodes for Big Brother 27.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Wednesday nights will be 90 minutes.
Wow.
And there's also going to be a Friday night episode of Big Brother.
Is it just like all big? Like, is it a live feed on CBS?
No, I believe it's Wednesday night, 90 minutes, Thursday night, and Sunday night. And then every other week on Friday, they're basically going to have like a podcast on CBS where 3 former alumni are going to talk about what's happening in the house.
Wow. Going all in on Big Brother. All right.
All in. Hey, look,
is it a big cast or is it like normals?
I think it's a normie cast from what I understand. Okay?
Yeah. Huh.
All right. And of course, you can chat with the Glitterati. We had so much fun with Rachel earlier tonight. You can join in on all the fun. Get ready for the finale. It's going to be lit. Join for free on Chat BCC.
Yeah, Rachel chatting tonight. That'll be fun.
Yeah. robinswebsite.com/VIP chat for that. All right. Steven, do you have anything to plug?
Well, I mean, the book.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes, of course, the book. So you know what to do with that. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up on Thursday. Looking forward to talking to Charlie. Looking forward to my exit interview with Shauhin. And looking forward to reading your comments as usual here on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening. I thought this was a lot of fun tonight.
What a great episode. Truly, like, so much. It's like we've all been complaining for the past couple of weeks, but we love the pre-merge, right? A lot of people like the pre-merge. It was a very fun pre-merge, I thought. And then, suddenly it's fun today. It could be fun next week. Like, a few bad episodes doesn't mean like we're in the worst Survivor season ever, which is what people have been saying.
Steven, that they say in stories, you have a great beginning, you have a great ending. People forget the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. The middle is tough. The middle is tough.
The middle is tough.
Yeah.
Look, we get an exciting finale. Maybe we're like, it's a pretty good season.
Right. I kind of think that's true. It's like nobody, and I remember in, some other seasons where that was the case. People were like, oh, why is this character still in the game? And then the character's gone and everyone's excited.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Have a good one. Bye. This is RHAP. We know reality TV.